And with that in mind, let's bring on the head coach of the Orange. Our first visit with him during the season, brought to you every week by Oswego County Mutual. Coach, how are you today?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Good, Coach. I just realized you and I are very much the same age, and I did not know that. And Slick Rick is coming to Syracuse. Were you a Slick Rick fan?
Big Slick Rick fan. What got me to school every morning on my headphones, man, and my Walkman. Hey, young world.
we just played them. All right, good. So he is he's probably top 10 for me in rappers all time.
I like it.
December 12th, in case you're free that night, Coach.
You want to go with me? I already asked Steve. He can't go. So
I can't go. I've got to work. I'm sure you probably have to work as well.
You want to hang out with me?
But Paulie's free, so Paulie's going to the concert.
Steve, you're missing out, man. You're missing out, Steve. Man.
Oh, I would love to go. It's a Friday night, so it's tough for me to get Friday nights off of work.
I get it.
All right, Coach. Let's jump into basketball, and obviously a very impressive start. You've gone out. You guys have taken care of business against Binghamton. You took care of business against Delaware State. What stood out to you and the rest of your coaching staff from those first two games?
I thought our concentration and our effort was really consistent. We didn't have a lot of dips. I thought our effort and energy, level 5 energy, was more consistent than our 2 preseason games, and I thought that was the difference.
It's obviously very early. You're only 2 games in, but one thing that Paulie and I have been talking about on the show is that there are certain things that we feel like we already know about this team, and I want to get your thoughts. And one of those things is it looks like this team is much better defensively than we've seen even just the last handful of years. I mean, do you feel that way as well when you see it every day at practice, and we've obviously seen what the games look like? Are you ready to say, this team defensively is the best that you've had to this point?
I think ability-wise, yeah, but still a work in progress. But I like where we're at. We definitely have. It's probably the best defensive potential we've had. Since I've taken over. I thought my first year's team had that. I think we really needed that interior presence, which we lacked that towards the end of that year. But I think this team has those similar makeups of just the speed and the quickness and aggressiveness that you need to be a solid defensive team.
It's a perfect segue. I was going to ask you about William Kyle III, and you told us he was a really good player, and I think he's surprised a lot of us that he's not just a defensive player, but he's pretty skilled on the offensive end as well. He can finish around the basket, great in the pick and roll game. He's athletic. He gets up and down the floor. We've been very impressed by him. How much does he help what you guys are trying to do though on the defensive end? Obviously he had 6 blocks the other day.
I think it's extremely important as our younger perimeter guys continually try to get better, so that when we do have those drives, that we can protect the basket. So it's really important, especially early on. Hopefully we won't have to depend on him as much as we continue to get better and work on it, and just have him, kind of still protect the rim and guard his position a little bit more. But you got to have the way we want to play with the level 5 energy that we're talking about, and gassing out and giving it your all on that defensive end. You're going to need some people to be able to back you up, because on the perimeter, we're going to try to be more aggressive than we have in the past.
Coach, when you look at your defense, what is it that worries you right now? We've talked about it's got better potential. What do you guys think you need to work on?
I think just collectively the communication. I think that's the biggest thing, continuing to talk to each other. We call it chatter. We got to continually be more connected, more chatter, more talking to each other. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that'll help us out a lot, and we got to get better at that. We're not quite there yet with that. And then finishing possessions with rebounds.
And you've done this with JJ playing all of 3 minutes. Obviously, he left very early in that opener against Binghamton. Can you give us any sort of update in terms of how he's doing, when you expect him back? What's the latest on JJ?
He's still day-to-day. It's a possibility that he could, be back with us early as Saturday. But we expect him back soon. He's a leader. He's a senior leader of this team. He's the guy that really is bought into the level 5 energy. the effort. He's a guy that is one of the fastest. He's blessed with athletic ability. So we're just looking forward to getting him back and continually getting better as a unit and as a team.
With him out, we've seen Kiyan Anthony get some extra minutes, and he certainly made the most of those extra minutes. He's been very impressive through these first two regular season games. What have you liked most, Coach, about the way he's playing and really the way he's just handled this situation in general?
Well, I think the one thing about Kiyan is that he understands that he has room for development, and I love that about him. Very, very receptive to improving it in some areas that he's continuing to improve on. But he's a very confident young player. He's highly good IQ. He can make plays. He's not just a scorer. I think those are all good traits that you have to be successful. Confidence and good IQ and understanding and feel for the game on both sides of the ball. And that's what I like. But he knows he knows he needs to still improve, and he's very receptive to coaching.
Coach, JJ, we've only seen him for a couple minutes so far this season, but last year, was he in positions last year where he had to take more shots and tough shots? And will this year's team help him be more efficient on the offensive end?
Yeah, I thought last year, we needed JJ to do a lot, and he had to really, like you said, Paulie, he had to make some things happen for order us to kind of hang around and have a chance. We needed him to play that way. I think this year, with the other players that we have around, I think it will allow him to be more efficient. I think you'll be able to see more of his game really this year. His passing, his playmaking, not taking better shots. I think you'll see that all kind of come to fruition this year with this team.
Obviously, Coach, we talk for 2 hours every day, so we have to talk about everything, and we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the topic has come up about free throw shooting and 3-point percentage to this point. I know it's only 2 games in. Just curious to get your thoughts on: are there any concerns from either of those 2 areas, or do you look at it as it's an outlier, it's a small sample size, and we'll be just fine in those areas?
I really focus on the type of shots that we're getting, and I think if we continually get the right shots and the best shots, we'll make them. But again, I said it from one of my press conferences and with this team. The offense will take care of itself if we get lost in the game and really worry about the other small things in the game. And I think all that will all work itself out. We got really good shooters on this team. I'm not overly concerned. I think this team was putting in a lot of work and was very excited and still is excited to play. In front of our home crowd. So there's some excitement there. So I think some of the free throws, you can chalk that up to some jitters, and I'm sure we'll make those. The 3-point shots, it's really about trying to see if we can get some more, create some more, and take a little bit more. And I think they will fall as well. The shot selection is really what I'm really more concerned about. And we've taken good shots.
Coach, you talk about the level 5 and, just playing as hard as you can for 40 minutes. There's a bunch of players on this team that probably aren't used to being on the bench. And, how has the buy-in been from guys like Sadiq White and Kiyan Anthony who are on the bench to start games?
I think when you play the way we want to play, you can't play you can't play for long periods of time. So we're all gonna, we all have made sacrifices. When we built this team, everyone knew we had to sacrifice. Next man up. We pulled together. We're going to be one of the most connected teams in the country. Win, lose, whatever it is, whatever the result is, we're a family. We're gonna stay together, and we spend a lot of time together. So, someone that's on the bench, he's in a fueling station, right? He's getting ready. He's getting ready to come in and give one of his brothers a rest, and then we just keep turning it like that. And that's our motto. That's our mindset.
Coach, let's turn our attention to the next opponent. You've got Drexel down in Philadelphia. Again, technically a neutral site game, but 5 miles from the Drexel campus. It happens to be in an arena, an NCAA tournament site this year. This Drexel team, I don't need to tell you this. They just made 15 threes the other night at Colgate, and they were down 19 at the half. They cut it to 2, put a scare in the Raiders down the stretch. What stands out to you from this Drexel team?
It's about the program. Drexel's a very good program. They've been a very good program and for a while, and a lot of it, you talk about this new transfer portal era. They probably lose 2 or 3 guys every year that transferred up to high majors at our level, Power 4 levels, and they all make an impact. So really good program, really good team, solid team. They will not be intimidated. They got some veterans, well coached, very good defensive team. So this will be, another challenge for us, and we're just looking forward to it.
You talk about the transfer portal era. It's also the net ranking era. How did you go about scheduling this game, and what did that play into it, and how you're playing all of your opponents so far?
Everything is different, so you have to get with the times, and we have a analytical team, and we sat down and we did like most schools. I think in the ACC most schools didn't do that. I think you see it this year. There's a method to everything. With everything being analytically driven, like you said, the net, and so those things are important. It's hard to make that tournament, and you can't make the tournament now just by the eye test. You have to have the analytics to back it up. So you got to put a pretty balanced schedule together, and then you got to go out and compete, and that's hard. It's easier said than done, and it's hard, but it's exciting, and that's what we did this summer.
I know the focus is on Drexel, as it should be. You got Drexel, then Monmouth, and of course, we're all looking forward to Vegas, and I'm sure to some degree you're excited about Vegas as well. But there's some business to take care of before then. Between now and then, Coach, what are you looking for out of your team? What would you like to see? The guys kind of shore up before you head out to Vegas to take on Houston.
To keep getting better, really, it's about our standard, and getting it to the standard that we want it to be, and that was just, the way we operate, the way we practice, the process. We talk about the process and do not focus on the results. So just getting more consistent in that and what we do inside this gym, and then going out and executing what we need to do. That's all that we're trying to do. It's not about the opponent. It doesn't matter who we play. It's not about the opponent. It's about us, and that's the focus, and that's the approach that we will have this whole year.
How do you keep your team from doing what my co-host just did and thinking about Houston already?
It's challenging. I mean, again, but this group right here, we're doing something together, and we're starting to see, a little bit of the effects of if we do this thing the way what we've been doing, we're starting to see the benefits of it. So we're just excited about each day. We stay in the day, stay in the moment. The future is the future. When we get there, we'll get there. And it's really just taking it one day at a time. Very cliche, very hard to do at times, especially in today's society. But we lock in every day. We punch it every day. We check. When we get here, it's about what we're doing today. So we prepare our guys, and we talk with our guys every day about what today holds.
And for our listeners, don't forget Adrian Autry show tonight over at the Wildcat Pizza Pub in Camillus. Coach, great start. Keep up the good work. Good luck on Saturday, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you guys later.
All right, Adrian Autry, brought to you every week by Oswego County Mutual. And with that, we'll hit a timeout. Full lines back open if you want to check in at 315-437-7644. We are back after this on ESPN Radio.